Welcome to the return of Stay Tuned on Gaming, the weekly news show where I go through some of the biggest news of gaming this week. PlayStation finally released the PlayStation VR lineup. Microsoft has had big layoffs this week. Square Enix has now decided to kill off Marvel Avengers, and Ubisoft's big troubles continue. Now let's start with some quick stories. Callisto Protocol sales have flopped. According to reports out there, the publisher, the parent company Krafton, expected the game to sell around 5 million copies. But it seems like the game hadn't even sold 2 million copies and had cost over 161 million to make over its 3 years. This has affected Krafton's value due to the sales shortage. The game never really got anywhere when it came out and had mixed reviews, with many labeling it the Dead Space Lite and not even a good kind of Dead Space. This is extremely bad since Dead Space Remake is coming out pretty soon. In other news, after a year's delay, EA's PGA Tour finally has a release date. Yes, after a long delay, the game will now be coming out on March 24th, 2023 for PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. Monster Hunter Sunbreak has surpassed 5 million units globally, with the cumulative sales of the series exceeding 88 million as of September 30th, 2022. Rise was a big expansion released in June 2022 and has now sold over 5 million units. This is just in time for the release of not only Monster Hunter Rise, but Sunbreak, which has been released now on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. And additionally, Monster Hunter World Iceborne has surpassed 10 million units, and that game was released all the way back in September 29. In its 7th year, Nintendo is reportedly planning to increase Switch production. Around this time, Nintendo usually decreases its production so it can start bringing in mass production for its next console, but it seems like they'll be totally flipping the script. Last year, they announced that they'll be reducing Switch sale forecast from 21 million to 19 million, but it seems like they've decided to flip that over and decide to increase production. This is mainly due to the release of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the sequel to Breath of the Wild, and it seems because of that expected game sale, they're boosting production for their consoles as well, meaning we won't see a new Nintendo console this year, but probably in 2024. And with there being leaks apparently showing a Zelda-themed Switch OLED console, maybe this is going to happen sooner than later. I promise you now, that game is going to go like crazy. And Sony has confirmed the lineup for the VR2 launch lineup and revealed 30 new games for the platform. Now, Sony defines the games that are releasing by the end of March as its lineup, and there are 3 first-party titles that will be available, but Horizon Call of the Mountain and Gran Turismo will be available on launch day. For Gran Turismo, you basically can experience all the cars and track in VR. No 2-player split screen, but everything else, including online, will be available. They've also announced ports of the PlayStation VR title Res Infinite, which will have eye tracking and haptic feedback, and Tetris Effect will also support unique PSVR 2 features, such as being able to open and close your eyes to activate the zone. This has been a very big year for them when it comes to their titles, so Sony has also announced an extra full lineup of the game. So here's going to be the titles. So get ready, there's a lot of titles here. After the Fall, Altea Break, Before Your Eyes, Cities VR, Cosmonus, Creed Ride to Glory Championship Edition, The Dark Pictures, Switchback, Demo, Disconia Chronos Alternate, Fantasia 2020X, Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Call of the Mountain, Job Simulator, Jurassic World Aftermath, Kayak VR Mirage, Katsuna Eye, Touch the Beat, The Last Clockwinder, The Light Brigade, Moss 1 and 2 Remaster, NFL Pro Area, No Man's Sky, because it can also be played in VR, Pavlo VR, Pistol Whip, Puzzling Places, Resident Evil, Village, which will come via a free update to the PS5 version of VR Village, Res Infinite, Smoke in the Song, Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, Synth Rises, The Tale of Onogoro, Tectacular, Tetris Effect, Thumper, The Walking Dead Sinners and Saints Chapter 2, Vacation Simulator, What the Bat, Zenith the Lost City. Now, the VR will launch on February 22nd and will be priced at $550 and will include not only the headset, Sense controllers, and stereo. So, while the system is also not going to be backwards compatible with any of your VR games, it is a good lineup, even though yes, most of those games are already available on other VR systems. Again, I still think it's a good lineup, and having that amount of games is way better than it had anything for PSVR 1. Let's just hope that Sony continues to push the VR2, because right now, they're the only ones really doing anything with VR when it comes to the gaming and major gaming, for consoles. Now that we've got to the small news out of the way, let's start with the big news. And let's start with Marvel Avengers. Crystal Dynamics has confirmed that they will stop development on the game later this year. The final update will come on March 31st, and it will officially end support on September 30th of this year. Though all single player and multiplayer gameplay will be available and will continue if you want to still play it. For anyone that has credits on the game, they will turn that into in-game currency, and anything in the marketplace will become completely free for players that have already spent or haven't spent yet. This is it's a shame, really, because Marvel Avengers was really interesting when it came out, but once it did arrive, people quickly found that the game was very lacking and very boring. This led to the game just fighting with itself. It felt like a game that wanted to tell this epic story, but then it was also at odds with its gameplay, which was a live service model. The sad thing is that Crystal Dynamics didn't even really try to fix this game. Many times, even with all the DLCs that it's released, from Spider-Man to Lady Thor to even its last content, which was the Winter Soldier, it just never reached the heights that it wanted to. I do think this is on Square Enix's fault, giving it to Crystal Dynamics, who have no experience in making a live service game. What did you think was going to happen? It's been 2.5 years and no one even really talks about this game anymore. It's a huge flop, and it's a flop both on the ego of Crystal Dynamics and on the face of Square Enix, who just hasn't had any luck with their Marvel properties when it comes to sales. Maybe it's because they just have too high expectations, even though they really pushed this game. Crystal Dynamics, of course, was sold later last year to Embracer Group, and they have been announced to co-develop the Perfect Dark reboot that is being made by Xbox at Xbox Studio, The Initiative. So they're busy working on that. We'll probably see them make a Tomb Raider game in the future, so I do hope that they continue to make games, but it is going to be the end of Marvel Avengers. You'll probably find this game everywhere now. I mean, like, they immediately started just selling this game to any subscription service that they could find. And, well, that's it. That's the end of Marvel Avengers. It is over. Well, it seems like if you work in the video game industry, expect to get laid off. Multiple companies across both media and other conglomerates all announced that they were going to have layoffs over the years. Microsoft, of course, being the latest, as they confirmed last week that they will lay off 10,000 employees, which affected both 343 Industries, Bethesda, and Xbox staff, which cuts the total workforce by 4.5%, with Phil Spencer even sending out a mass email to basically say it will set up for long-term success. So everyone got affected by this cut today. Everyone has been affected. 343 Industries, who's been having trouble with Halo, has been affected. Bethesda, who has released nothing under Microsoft. Of course, we still know Starfield and Elder Scrolls is on its way, but who knows when that's going to come out. It's just been a very bad time for Microsoft and people in the industry itself. This also comes about a couple of months in October when they announced they were also laying off 1,000 staff across the company. And while they have said that they were mainly focusing on just people that were underperforming, who knows? We can't really tell. I mean, it's them making the report. But there's other companies as well had to announce layoffs. Unity, NetEast, Ubisoft, Riot Games, and even in the media space with GameSpot and Giant Bomb both announcing their firings. This also comes 1 year to the day after Microsoft has announced its intention to buy the Activision Blizzard company. Of course, we know that deal is still being contested to this day, and we'll see where that goes. But not a really good light in Microsoft. But layoffs happen all the time. It's quite a big amount of layoffs that have been happening, and Microsoft don't need that right now when this is going to probably be their biggest year when it comes to Xbox itself. From one bad company to another, let's talk about Ubisoft and what has been going on there. So if you haven't been following the news, Ubisoft posted some record losses when it came to their games. Now, the two games that they're basically mostly targeting is Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope and Just Dance 2023, which both failed to meet any of the game's sales expectations. I'm surprised Mario + Rabbids didn't, but I don't think anyone really hyped that game up enough. This caused Ubisoft to basically go on the offensive and having to delay their big title, Skull and Bones. Yes, if you guys still remember this game, it's a game that's based off the Pirates minigame in Assassin's Creed 4 and Assassin's Creed 3, and it's supposed to be this multiplayer game, but it's been delayed 6 times, and now there isn't even a date for it. It's supposed to release sometime next physical year for Ubisoft, but we have no idea. Even now, pre-orders and the game has been delisted. So Skull and Bones just is up in the air at this point. This has also caused them to delay 3 other unannounced titles as well. They canceled these titles completely, so I have no idea what these titles were. This also comes with the back of Ubisoft in July last year also announcing that it will cancel Ghost Recon Frontline and a Splinter Cell VR and 2 other unannounced games as well. So they've been having these losses a lot. And one of the main reasons this has been happening is because they've been trying to change, right? They've been trying to make all of their games live service. I mean, if you just look at Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it really has the live service model in it. And this just hasn't been successful. Many of their titles suffer because of this. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a large, big game, but it isn't fun to play. When you go back and you play the other Assassin's Creeds, they're simple, right? Smaller, but they have much more of a focus. Valhalla just doesn't, and it just has this crazy things. Now, they did have success with their titles. The Division and Ghost Recon Wildlands were really, really successful. But the problem is, Ubisoft can never step away and let something just simmer. And they immediately announced The Division 2 and Ghost Recon Breakpoint, sequels to those titles. They shouldn't have done that. At most, a live service title has at least 5 to 7 years life cycle if you continue to support it. When those games did come out, there was already a large fan base for both of those games, and nobody wanted to jump onto the next games because Wildlands was way more fun to play, and then you play Breakpoint and it wasn't as fun. Then you go to Division and Division 2 and it wasn't as fun. While they did eventually get to that level, they just weren't that exciting. So many of their titles has been trying to turn into that. Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, and they also have For Honor in the background as well. So now the question becomes, what games are they making? Because at this moment, there really isn't anything. So let's list what we do know that Ubisoft is willing to make. So first and foremost, Skull and Bones. This game is supposed to come out this year now. It was supposed to come out like next month or in March, but now we have no idea when it's coming out. And I will say this, I don't think it's going to be the moneymaker that they think it is. I mean, the game looks okay, but it still hasn't wowed anyone when you watch it. Because you already have a pirate game, Assassin's Creed 4. It's actually really fun. You should go play it. But of course, there's also Assassin's Creed itself, and there's a ton of stuff planned for that over the next few years. Of course, the mainline title to launch this year is Assassin's Creed Mirage. You then have an Assassin's Creed Project Red, which is set in Japan. There's a spin-off Assassin's Creed Codename J, and a AAA mobile game that is set in China. Now, these are no specific dates for those, except for Mirage, which is later this year. But it does show for the next few years, Assassin's Creed is set. Then they have that Prince of Persia remake. You remember that? Where development has stopped? Apparently that's still in the works. And of course, there's the barely talked about Splinter Cell remake as well. They also have said that there are one more big project that they have yet to announce for people. And of course, they also have the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And that game was supposed to come out when Avatar was released, but it also got delayed. So there's a whole lot of stuff happening there. But the craziest story is probably the one I never thought I would hear. Ubisoft claims that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still in development. This blew my mind when I heard this. It's been 15 years since they've been talking about Beyond Good and Evil 2. And the last time we saw this game, I think was like 7 years ago. Apparently, it's still in the works and it is still in development. I don't see why it's in development. The game, no one knows what this game is anymore. Like, no one knows. Does anyone even still know what Beyond Good and Evil is? It's just not working for me when it comes to that. I can't believe they still have this, but they'll delay 3 unannounced games, which were, by the way, being told, very big in its R&D, very far in its development, and they just full on cancelled it. So, yes, Ubisoft is in a crazy state right now with employees wanting to unionize and strike, the CEO sending out a very, very condescending email to people, which wasn't good for anyone, and he had to backtrack on that statement. So yes, there's a lot of stuff happening at Ubisoft. But like I said, there are still games. I don't know how I feel about Assassin's Creed Mirage. They said they've tried to focus it a bit more and make it a lot smaller because the game has gotten a lot big, and I actually think that will help the game a lot. Valhalla is just too big to be good. And it's not big as in, oh, it's really big and it's fun to play. It's big in as in, there's just too much busy work and I get bored after 10 hours. That's the problem with Valhalla and many of it. So I do hope that they don't unnecessarily cancel any more games. Mirage will sell. Assassin's Creed always sells for some reason. I mean, it just looks interesting and it looks different. So Assassin's Creed will always sell. There's nothing about that. But again, these projects and Ubisoft will have to figure out and change their ways, because the Ubisoft model was very successful. Let's not go back to Assassin's Creed and the early Far Cries. Those games were very successful and they really did work. The issue is Ubisoft then took that models and said you could refine it, make it better. Instead they said, let's just add more stuff to it, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now let's talk about video game releases for the week of the 23rd of January to the 27th. I will jump a little bit earlier because on January 20th, Fire Emblem Engage for the Nintendo Switch was launched, and Monster Hunter Rise made its way to consoles, and I mostly mean new consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series X. On January 24th, Forspoken will finally come out for Windows and PS5. The game, of course, is Square Enix's next big RPG. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, this game's trailers has just never looked good. The voice acting's always been weird. Square Enix hasn't done a good job in marketing this game, just to be safe. Like, it just hasn't looked good. On January 26th, we have the Sega 7, which will be making its way to Nintendo Switch, PS4 and PS5. But I think everyone is waiting for January 27th. Yes, Friday. It will be the release of the Dead Space remake, which will be launching for the Windows, PS5 and Xbox Series X. Everyone has been waiting for this. Callisto Protocol failed because everybody is waiting for this Dead Space remake. I don't know how I feel about it. I still think the original game to this day still holds up. We'll see how this game plays out. I hope it does do really well, because this will be, the first time they've released anything Dead Space since Dead Space 3. Let's hope EA doesn't screw this one up, because if this game sells well, we'll have Dead Space once again. I hope you liked the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And this is Stay Tuned Gaming on the Week. See ya.
Redefine.
There's still a way out for us. But we don't have much time.